prime time on the top game, that's a fine line. Man in the match, that's David. He's the main guy, keep a close eye. Make sure you don't make no wrong play, cause I'm with Jose and Andre. And when Cyrus comes to walk in, you better know that you are watching Premier League. Dave, I tell what time we on. Prime time. Let me hear you say Premier League. Dave, I tell what time we on. Prime time.
Hello and welcome to Premier League Primetime. And yes, no, we haven't gone. Yes, we're still here. It's been a while. Like I say, it feels like it's always been a while. It always feels like it's been a while. Like there's something brand new every single time we do the show. But hey, that's just the beauty of doing it. Of course, as per usual, I am back here with the other three, Jose, Sirius, and Andre. Let's see what happens. It's a 50-50 chance, but who knows? How are we all doing? And yep, just like that, I knew straight away it was never going to be anything that I was going to get anything certain, because responses absolutely never come in any way, shape, or form. But we're just going to get straight into it. Starting off with Arsenal, looking at their past 6 games. I think the first place we need to go to, I think we might have echoed it last episode. The fact how no striker was signed whatsoever. No attacking reinforcements were signed in the January window, and they've been left with Mikel Merino up front until the foreseeable, probably. Seriously, even in the absence of a lot of these attacking options that are out, Saka, of course, has been notably out. Havertz has been out. Martinelli's been in and out with injury. Do you think Arsenal will still be okay, at least for the short term?
In terms of okay, we're definitely gonna, I think, stay in second. Look, of course we should have got a striker. I think everyone knows that now. I'm not sure if that was, the board's choice. I don't think it was Arteta's choice. So you kind of really have to feel bad for him. If you think about it, we're not playing with a striker. Our best player is out. Our captain was out, almost half the season. You think about it, we're not doing that bad. We're second place. I really think that if we had a striker, if one of them was available, we'd still be in this title race. It's pretty much over now. I don't see a way of us getting back in it. You got to feel for Mikel Merino. He's trying his best. He's still getting goals.
Scored against Chelsea.
Yeah, and he's never even played striker apparently. So you have to feel for him. I think he's doing the best he can. I think he has 4 goals in total. I think 2. Yeah, he's 4 in total. I think, in my opinion, right now, just got to focus on Champions League. Hope that Saka comes back against Real Madrid. Try to grind a 1-0, maybe 2-0 win in the Emirates, and then just park the bus when it comes to playing them away. That's really our only hope right now. This season, I don't really feel like we've played extremely amazing soccer or football till I look back at that 2022-2023 season, and I feel like that's the last time we were playing beautiful football. We're doing the best we can with the injuries we have. Hopefully Saka can come back soon. Martinelli's back. He actually had a pretty good game last game. But we need our wingers to start scoring more. We need Martinelli, Trossard to start helping out. Again, and as long as Saliba and Gabriel are still there, we always have a chance. That's what I always say. So,
Joe, do you fancy your chances against Arsenal in the next round of the Champions League?
Yes.
That's a simple, straightforward. Yes.
Look, the thing is, normally with Real Madrid, we have history on our side, and technically this time we don't actually have history on our side, which is a little bit worrying. But I think that we'll win. I think they will win, and I think that it's Real Madrid, so we'll probably make it a bit uncomfortable for ourselves, but I think we'll win.
Fair enough. There are 2 players I think that definitely need talking about. Firstly, or actually, I guess you could say 3. or you could bracket two of them into one. Firstly, the summer signings. I mentioned this almost every episode, but specifically the performances of Calafiore in recent weeks. The fact how Raheem Sterling's not even used. Does that kind of show, whether Arteta really wanted him or not, whether Austin was really a target or not? And another got to talk about Andrea Berta coming in from Atletico Madrid, Arsenal's edgy replacement as their new sporting director. Thoughts on that?
Yeah. We needed to replace Edu. It's kind of a surprise that he left. I don't know. I never really understood the full reason why. There's, a lot of rumors on why he left. I wasn't happy with how things were going. But yeah, Atletico Madrid director, it's a top quality side. In terms of signings Atletico have had, I think they've had some great ones, but I think they've also had some lackluster ones. But, we'll see how he does. In terms of Raheem Sterling, yeah, I mean, look, okay, he had a good game in the Champions League, but huh?
No, I said no. To be fair to him, he definitely did.
But we were already 7-1 up. It was over. There's no pressure. I really feel like I don't know if Arteta wanted to sign him, who wanted to sign him, but he's just not good enough anymore. And it's kind of crazy because when you see the way he plays, you think he's like 35 years old. He's only 30, 31 years old. He still should be, at the top of his game. And you got to think it's some type of issue. I don't know what it is, confidence, something, but he should still be on the top of his game. And I don't know why he isn't. Ever since he left City, it hasn't been the same. In terms of Calafiore, I do really like Calafiore. I think that sometimes, he's a little injury prone, and sometimes defensively speaking, he can be a little vulnerable, but I think that he's going to be good. He's still super young, big, strong. I think he's great going forward, gets goals and, important times. So I think he's going to be great too. So I'm fine with that.
Fair enough. Before we shift into the last one, I wanted to talk about big up to Miles Lewis-Skelly for the call up. 100% deserved. Super excited to see how he does in these 2 weeks with the national side. How what Tuchel will do with him. I imagine he'll be a left back or left wing back in a 3 if he plays at that back 3. But big up to Lewis-Skelly, 100%. Super happy for him. He's been performing very, very, very well as Declan Rice, to be fair. But who's been looking like the captain of Arsenal. And there's been a lot of criticism towards the captain of Arsenal, Martin Odegaard. Andre, I'm going to throw this one at you and this one at you as well. Do you think the criticism to Odegaard's been warranted? I'll throw this out to the whole panel. What do you guys think? Anyone?
I don't know. I'm probably interested to see what Sirius says. I don't think I've watched enough Arsenal to answer that question.
Fair enough.
I actually haven't seen enough of the criticism. I feel like I mean, I know he was injured a good chunk of the season. I think where I kind of in general, when I consider Odegaard amongst just in the conversation for other elite playmakers, I think he's kind of in his own. I just feel like he's kind of a unique player. He's not going to be for example, compare him to someone like Bruno, right? Bruno Fernandes. It's easy because he gets goals and assists. Odegaard's what he provides is bigger than goals and assists. I think he plays a little deeper. I don't really see him as a typical 10. So to be honest, I don't really, I don't know enough about the criticisms, but I just feel like Odegaard's a really difficult player for a lot of people to kind of fully comprehend. I would just say don't know what the criticisms are about, but if it's related to maybe contribution to attack and stuff like that, probably just needs some help. I feel like he's just good at other things, but I don't know if that's an educated reply.
No, fair enough. Seriously, I'll throw this one at you. Actually, that would actually make the most sense.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely not his work ethic or anything. He works so hard. I think after the injury, I think definitely some of the criticism is a little bit warranted, but I think he's also being used as a scapegoat a little too much. I think what's been different about his game since he's been injured, I don't think it's necessarily his dribbling, passing. He's been pretty poor in front of goal as of recent. Ever since that injury, he's had a lot of good chances, and especially when we don't have a striker right now, he needs to be putting them away. But, I'm not extremely worried about it. I feel like, to be fair, like, he needs a striker that's gonna make runs, that's gonna, cater to like how he plays, how he, I think with Gabriel Jesus, he linked up the traffic pretty well, and I think Marino's is a different type of player, so it doesn't really help him too much. But I think he does have to be a little bit better. I think there's been games where he's shown that. He scored 2 goals against PSV, things like that. But there are definitely some games where I felt like he's been a little bit lackluster. But I don't think he's like the main issue or anything. I think he's just because he's the captain of Arsenal, he's being used as a little bit of a scapegoat. But he does have to, against Real Madrid, against these, against Tottenham, he has to be, our best player because he's supposed to be right now.
No, fair enough. I definitely can understand some of the criticism, but this is still a very good player that we're talking about, and he can't do it all by himself. But I think with these poor performances that we've seen from Odegaard on a more consistent basis than we've seen since he's joined the club, for me, before Odegaard had this poor form, for me, I thought him and Saka were the two that were running the show. But now it's, for me, I kind of interpret it more as, kind of like a Batman and Robin kind of thing. Where, Saka's the main guy who's, it's basically Saka and Prey. And without Saka, Odegaard just seems, not entirely useless, but he's not as effective, as I should say. But moving into Aston Villa, for me, who were the winners of the January transfer window, who would have thought, if someone had, asked us, at the start of when this show was first established, and someone had told me that Marco Asensio and Marcus Rashford would be playing for Aston Villa, not only playing but bowling for Aston Villa in the last 16 of the Champions League, I think we all would have looked at that person and said, "What are you on about?" But here we are, Marcus Rashford and Marco Asensio have been playing very, very well for Villa. Andre, I'm going to throw this one at you. Is this something that the manager should take credit for the rejuvenation of these players? What are your thoughts on these two in particular?
I feel like Asensio's time is going to tell like whether he can stay fit and continue to contribute in the Premier League. He's had injury issues before, and obviously we know how physical this league is. In terms of Rashford, I think everyone knew there was a player there. I still think Emery and I'd say just the entire team at Aston Villa does deserve credit, because I think both of these players to some degree kind of left an environment where they weren't thriving for one reason or the other. I think United, probably Rashford's just dealt with years of toxicity and like probably poorly run, just a poorly run environment. So like for him to, make his mind up, decide to switch, which is big. He was Man United poster boy for years. And I guess just show everyone, yes, there's still a player in me. I'm succeeding at Aston Villa. And Aston Villa, I think, in general, for developing this talent and stylistically the way they play, they've become a very, I don't want to say respectable, but like literally just very suitable for many players, like to just develop their talent. They're bringing in good players.
Personally, for me,
he's a great example. Granted, neither of them turned out, the way we maybe wanted it to. But thinking of just both John Duran and Moussa Diaby, I know they left, but serious talents in there too.
And the negotiating as well.
What's his name?
The money they got for them. They got
and then now Morgan Rogers from City. There's just so many names now where they're bringing in some pretty good talent. Luca Digne even to succeed there. I didn't really think there was much of a player there, but
that's down to Monchi, their sporting director. But him and Emery go back to their time at Sevilla, so he knows Emery exactly how he works, the exact type of players that would suit him. So he would know better than anybody. And those two have a long history of working together.
I think it just seems like, if you're competing for big things and you have a stable project, then you're going to find success in this league. Because honestly, not not all clubs have that right now.
Even Watkins, going under the radar, slightly hasn't really deterred Villa in their performances as well. It's been more good than bad, you'd have to say. Same with Emi Martinez, noticing a few more errors than usual. Tyrone Mings has, risen from the dead, or what it would seem like, and he's just, he's come back and he's not looking like Tyrone Mings of lockdown, but he's looking significantly improved. And before I move into Bournemouth, Joe, I'm going to ask you this question. Do you think Aston Villa could make it further than they already have in the Champions League this season? Or do you think Paris Saint-Germain is where the fairy tale ends?
I mean, I think I would say that PSG will win the tie, but I think that you'd be a fool not to give this Villa team a chance in the tie at all, because I think that they have a really good team, and I think they can beat anyone on their day. And I think that I honestly think that their renaissance has not been talked about nearly enough. I think that to the fact that this team is in the quarterfinals of the Champions League, and a few years ago they were getting relegated. It's just crazy. Their rise has been crazy, and I think Emery deserves almost all the credit, to be honest. I think that he handled the Rashford
100%.
situation perfectly. Rashford came in and he basically said, "Look, I don't care what the situation was at his old club. He's my player now, and I'm going to give him his chance." And he's given him his chance, and he's taken it by the scruff of its neck. So he deserves all the credit, Unai Emery, for me.
That's such a great point. Honestly, that's such a great point. And you think back to a few years ago, 21-22 season, Emery got that Villarreal team all the way to the semi-finals of the Champions League, which Liverpool almost bottled. They nearly capitulated and fell apart, which it was only by luck, really, that they were just able to get through. So, I couldn't agree more with that. Moving into Bournemouth, and the performances will say more than the actual results, but of course, at the end of the day, the results is what's going to matter, especially in their hunt for European football. Definitely a lot more bad than good. Do you think that this is, showing the limitations of this Iriola side, despite, how good they've been for, all season? What do you guys think?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of these players, it's been their standout season already. Like, it's a lot of these players, it's their first time that we've really seen the best of them. So, I mean, of course they're going to dip, and their squad certainly isn't a very deep squad in terms of talent that can perform at the level that we've been seeing. So yeah, I think it's natural that they have dips of form like this, but these players have shown what they can do, and I'm confident they'll bounce back. And I'm still a really big fan of this Iriola side. No,
definitely. I mean, Justin Kluivert, is with every single week he's looking more like his father. With especially with a lot of the goals that he's scoring, and not only just the goals that he's scoring, but also just the positions he's picking up as well. A very, 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 very good footballer as well. Dean Howson, of course, we've talked about him, a good amount already. The one and only Mr. Chill guy. He also received his first call-up for Spain. Joe, any thoughts on that? Seeing that could also...
Yeah, I'm very excited. I think center back is a position right now that is open for newcomers in Spain. I think that I'm really excited, hopefully, to see him play with Pau Cubarsí, who I also really rate from Barcelona. So I'm excited because I think in the Euros that we won, we were playing Lenormand and Laporte. And I think that's definitely Laporte is he's getting a little older. He's playing in Saudi League now, so I'm hoping to see some new talent coming in at center back for Spain.
Do you think, and I'll throw this question out to the lot of you, do you think that Bournemouth will still clinch European football? Regardless of whether fifth is going to count for Champions League this season, and it will still be the 2 Europa League places and a Conference League place. Do you think Bournemouth will still get a European place this season?
I mean, I think it'll be between them and Brighton, to be honest. I think looking at the talent above them in the table, I think Newcastle are gonna have it. I think that Fulham have a good chance. Maybe throw it into Brighton, Fulham, or Bournemouth for the seventh spot.
Do you think Villa will get top 4?
I don't think Villa will get top 4, but I think Villa will finish higher than. Bournemouth.
Fair enough, man. Fair enough. Moving into Brentford. And something interesting that I was hearing on a podcast the other day. Apparently, the home record has not been too great as of late. I think they've got like one or two wins in the last 6, and even before that, which is something that I didn't notice. And I'm just wondering. I don't know the exact game that they have coming up next, but I'm personally wondering when on earth their next home is going to be. But then again, I think we play them in a few weeks' time. So I mean, Dr. Man United could stroll into town and solve all of Brentford's problems, as we do with literally so many teams. I don't know if I asked this episode, but out of the two, who's more likely to leave, Mbeumo or Vissa? Who's more likely to leave Brentford at the end of the season?
I don't know. I'm trying to think who's younger. Is Vissa younger?
No, I think
you said
Mbeumo's
Wisa or
like
Mbeumo?
24. Yeah.
Yeah,
Mbeumo's
Wisa's like 29 or 28, so definitely Mbeumo's younger.
I thought Mbeumo because I thought Mbeumo was the same age. I thought Mbeumo was 29 as well.
No, he just
No,
has
Mbeumo's
the
actually like 24.
aura of someone who's 29. He has the 29 vibe, but he's young. If he had a good hairline, he'd
Hairline
be
looks
way higher.
hairline
25.
states
Yeah,
otherwise.
and Mbeumo definitely I think is more likely to leave. That's so funny. I thought they were like the same age.
Yeah. No.
Moving into Brighton, and they have had a very, very, very good run of form. Despite 2 losses, they haven't had the easiest of fixture lists, but huge amount of credits have to needs to go Brighton's way. Any particular players that you lot think have been the most informed, the most impressive to you lot personally in this run of games?
I'd say Estupinian has been quite good.
Yeah, I think he scored a free kick the other day. And he's been
Was
good
that
for them
against
anyways.
was that against City? I think it was against City.
I think so, yeah. It might have been against Man City.
Joao Pedro's looked good as well.
For me, Carlos
Mente.
Baleba is going to be he's going to be the next in line. In the Basuma Caicedo sort of thing. I think, they'll get when Brighton do what Brighton always do and sell on their best players, I think that they will get definitely more than Basuma will. Maybe not as much as Caicedo. I don't think he's as technically sound as Caicedo is, but he's definitely a very good footballer. He's definitely one to watch in the summer window. I'm not sure whether he'll go anywhere or not because, Brighton players, yeah, you're going to be charged a premium. And Mitoma's looking like more back to his best. In particular, that Chelsea game, him and Idingra ran the show. And even with Evan Ferguson and Cisse out the door, I mean, you still look at their depth in attack, and it's, you still have Virginia Rutter. I think he's injured to come back. You still have Denny Welbeck, who's looking like Denny Welbeck of like 10 years ago, which is quite remarkable in and of itself. And again, another question to throw out to you is, who do you think is going to finish higher in the league table? Brighton or Bournemouth this season? What do you guys think?
I don't know. Like I said before, I think they're both in the toss-up for that seventh spot. If I had to bet on it, I'd probably have to give it to Brighton just because of how they've looked in previous seasons.
Yeah, I'd give it to Brighton as well. It's based on history.
Andre, what do you think?
I honestly like Bournemouth better as a team. However, I do think injuries are continuing to catch up with Bournemouth. It's a thing that Iraola has had to contend with, and I just feel like Brighton have more depth to be able to compete. So I'm going to go Brighton as well to finish higher.
Fair enough. A team that looks like they just keep falling apart. Chelsea. Yes, they've been getting results. They have 3 wins and 3 losses, but the performances have been poor. From what I've seen, scores and the XGs and the stats, can say one story. But for me, football isn't played on pen and paper; it's played on a pitch. And for what I've seen, and especially for a lot of these results, they've gotten away with it. but against the better sides, they've been punished. Especially those Brighton games in the FA Cup and in the Premier League. They have had significant struggles in attack, especially since Jackson's been out. Even to a certain extent since Nani's been out as well. What would you lot say is the main source or cause of Chelsea's attacking struggles? Because you look around everywhere, and yes, I include everywhere, including every single one of those attackers that they have, and they've all been poor as of late. And yes, I include every single one.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's no coincidence that Cole Palmer's kind of gone missing recently, and Chelsea have started losing games. I think it just shows how important his goals and assists really are. Like, I mean, he's gone missing, but he still has 14 goals and 6 assists, I think, this season. So I mean, like he's obviously can go a few games. He's able to go a few games without scoring goals, and I'm not going to criticize him, but he's like, when you go missing for that long, you really can see how important he is to them, and how he really, I think, needs some help.
I mean, even before he was missing for the Arsenal match. I mean, for me, when I watch Cole Palmer in particular, he definitely works better. He works better when he has players that can also make runs for him, that can run off of him. And if there's something that Jackson can do well, no, his finishing's not great whatsoever. He's quite awful in front of goal. But if there's something that Jackson can do very well, it's, for me, his movement and his ability to run the channels and to hold up the ball as well. And I've seen the best of Cole Palmer when he's been playing with Jackson. Just a personal take.
I could agree with that.
And for that, not that Jackson is the greatest finisher in front of goal. Of course, we've all seen the comps for the last season, almost 2 seasons now. But Jackson is so important to this Chelsea side for what they have now. Because without them, they lack any sort of forward player that can hold up the ball and actually play in the number 9 position. Because we've seen Nkunku, the biggest excuse for these Chelsea fans about Nkunku that they've been making for gosh knows how long. We've seen how he's been playing. He's not been great at all. Noni Madueke, even when he's been fit, hasn't been great. Jadon Sancho, since the Man City game, has been awful. You look at what's his name? Well, Mudrik's just Mudrik. I think he's done with the whole drug situation, and all that with the whole van situation as well. And you look at Pedro Neto, £60 million, someone who's, again, another player who's been, going under the radar that a lot of people have forgotten about. And he's been vastly disappointing as well. And then Nkunku cost 50 as well. So no, every single one of those attackers have been dreadful. And I think their attack is too timid. Too timid.
It is pretty amazing how many players they have, and Jackson is still really their only striker.
And again, £1 billion, and that's what £1 billion gets you. Yeah, that's you have to look at Paul and Stanley and Lawrence Stewart, the 2 supporting directors. I mean Christopher Vivell, he wanted Nagelsmann at Chelsea, and the 2 supporting directors, opted for Pochettino, and Vivell left. And we have landed Christopher Vivell, and thanks to him, we have players like Dorgu at our football club. So I'm actually very happy and thankful for that. Of course, the player that's going to continue and always is going to continue being an issue. Is Robert Sanchez the worst goalkeeper in the Premier League right now?
I don't know. I mean, Kepa is still around, but I think Sanchez has been worse.
Kepa's actually been largely good for Bournemouth this season.
Yeah, I know. But
yes, I know. Kepa is Kepa
this season.
Straight, honestly, I've not seen a goalkeeper that, I've somehow found a worse goalkeeper than Onana, and I thought that would be very difficult to find. Andre, what about you? What do you think?
I don't know. I'm personally just don't like talking about players like that. I think when you say worst goalkeeper in the league, I mean every team has a 4th string goalkeeper, so I don't know. It's just like I don't know. I don't like speaking like that. It just feels very reactionary. So I think he's been poor. Doesn't seem like he's good enough for this project. But
it wouldn't be reactionary. In this case, I don't think it'd be reactionary because he's been poor for even last season as well.
Yeah.
Definitely looks suspect, and he looks even worse this season now.
No, he's looked suspect. I feel like in terms of his level, he'd be good for maybe a mid-table Serie A side. That's kind of what I get from Robert Sanchez.
I mean, he was Brighton's number 3. He was Brighton's third choice goalkeeper
Right.
when Chelsea signed him.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't. Yeah, so I'm not going to say he's the worst in the league. I probably don't think that's true. Is he good enough for this project going forward? Right now, it doesn't look like it.
No, definitely. And again, just our personal opinions. But I mean, you look at Chelsea, right? I mean, they had so much attacking depth, or just so much depth in general. And in this January window, I mean, they loaned out Felix. They didn't sign another striker, which, to be honest with you, with Jackson out, Joao Felix probably would be the best option to play up front. He's not a striker, no, but I think he has better qualities to play up front than Nkunku does. Because Nkunku is just looking like an absolute ghost at the moment. He's not affecting games to what I thought he would. He's not a striker. He's not really, a classic number 10. He's not a winger. So it's kind of like, what is he, if you think about it? I think, the signing made sense when Vivell was there, but if Nagelsmann was there, it would have made more sense, but I don't see it now, unfortunately. But looking at Crystal Palace, there is a team that has been, turning things around. 1 loss in the last 5. I think the first place we have to start is Jean-Philippe Mateta. I mean, serious. We thought, he was going to be a purple patch thing when Glasner's come in, and he struggled at the beginning of last season. But how amazing is it that, the moment he finds, the back of the net again, he's just back in the form that we saw at the end of last season.
Yeah, I mean, he's totally kept Nketiah out of the lineup. I mean, which again is not that hard, but yeah, he's been great. Again, I think I mentioned it before. He gave, Saliba and Gabriel issues, and that's hard to do as a striker. His movement, for such a, you wouldn't expect his movement to be so good, and it is. He's a pretty clinical striker. And yeah, if we don't get Isak, maybe someone, we could really use him right now. I mean, we could use any striker. Yeah, last season had a great season. This season, back on that level. Had a pretty scary injury. Yeah, that was a pretty crazy one for sure. But yeah, he's great.
No, definitely. And I think another player we have to throw is Daniel Munoz as well, the right wing back who was on a reported rumor list a few days ago. I saw was in a short list of Man United transfer targets for right wing back in the summer. But then again, we get linked to everyone, so I'm taking every link that we get with with a grain of salt. Chalobah, who would perform well for them, got sent back, and they got Ben Chilwell in return, who, as expected, is just keeping the bench warm for Tarek Mitchell, who continues to look better and better and better with each game. Wharton returned from injury, and a bit hit and miss, but I think he was out for a while with I don't know what the injury was, but he was out for a while. But he's slowly looking back to his best. He's Eze's, constant, sort of, tendencies to be hot and cold, hot and cold. Joe, do you think that's a concern for Palace right now?
Eze being hot and cold?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I feel like it's always been that way. I feel like you can't really expect that much else. I think Eze's a form player. I feel like we have to talk about him being good or bad every time we talk about him. So it's nothing. It's nothing really different from the norm, I would say.
Fair enough. And with Mateta, is that a striker? Of course, Man United, we need a striker regardless in the summer. Is that a striker that you consider someone that we should look at? Apparently reported the price would be around 40 million. I think he's about 27, Premier League proven. Good all around, technically very good as well. Would that be striker that, for the price and for the circumstances we're in, because, we're not going to be able to attract top talent. Do you think that's someone that we should consider looking at?
I mean, I'm definitely a fan of Mateta. I think we should go for still players at a little bit of a higher level. We are still Man United at the end of the day, and I think we can find someone a little bit better. Although I like him a lot. I always really liked Dusan Vlahovic for us. And with Kolomuani coming in, I think that could be wise.
No, definitely. Vlahovic will definitely be on. He'll be on his way. Regardless
Vlahovic
of
has been.
Yeah, he's been
he's been one just. It's a transfer just begging for someone to take this gem of a player and actually develop him. He's just dying under Allegri right now. It's super sad. I really liked the Vlahovic goal.
Thiago Motta played the first half of the season under Motta, and then Kolomuani was brought in to better suit the way that Motta plays.
Yeah.
He was proving it, and now Kolomuani's dropped off. And now he just seems to be out. But I mean, this was a player, and has been a player that is rumored to be leaving long before Thiago Motta even got to Juventus. To be fair, and apparently, they're priced to be around what Mateta's going for, 30 to 40 mil. Maybe a little less than that, 30 to 40 million euros. So, I mean, at that price, you'd have to say he's, a fair steal.
Wait, Joe, who would you rather have hypothetically, Gyökeres or Vlahovic?
Probably Vlahovic because he's younger, but I think that if we brought in Gyökeres right now, he would be better immediately.
Assuming that we had a blank checkbook.
Yeah, which we don't. Honestly, an option like Mateta is much more likely because of our transfer situation at the moment.
Yeah.
Looking at Everton, I think we have to talk about Beto. I know, just the most random player that. How impressive has Beto's resurrection been? Because it seemed under Sean Dyche he was only going to be a squad player. Was brought in for decent money as well, and he just rose from the dead. Another one. What do you guys think?
Yeah, I certainly wrote him off. I can't remember how long ago it was when he signed. I think it was 2 years ago. But I certainly wrote him off as someone who wouldn't make it in the Premier League, and he's definitely proven me wrong. I do also want to point out Carlos Alcaraz. He's been quite good recently.
I was about to say, he's been phenomenal as well. Would you imagine that's going to get that'll be like a player that they'll look to sign permanently in the summer?
Yeah, certainly. I think I could definitely see that happening.
It's kind of odd because a player like Alcaraz, you wouldn't think that he would be a typical David Moyes player. No one would think that, but he's proven that. And again, as I always give credit for David Moyes in past times, with clubs that just don't have the best quality of players, he knows how to get the best out of those players. He knows how to get the best out of what he's got, and he's been doing a very good job of it. The right back O'Brien scored at the weekend as well. Again, looking very, very, very good as well. James Garner just continues to impress every single time he plays. Just looks better and better and better. So huge amount of credit has to be given to him as well. And the new stadium looks exciting. But before we move into Fulham, how much credit should we give Moyes for this turnaround? What do you guys think?
Yeah, Everton have looked much more formidable under him. He's clearly, the old man still got it. I'm kind of surprised. I think if it was going to work at any club, it was going to be Everton. He definitely deserves some credit. The only direction I'd kind of take it is, I think plenty of teams have been fooled by new manager bounce. So I'm thinking the real test will be how Everton fare next season. I'd say until then, let's just see where. They're going to stay up. That's probably the bare minimum, and get the fans involved with some fun goals. But, it's going to be next season is going to be truly the test of this Everton side. And, I still am pretty, ambivalent about the idea of them bringing in talent, to the likes that, maybe a Brighton would bring in, right? So it's they're still behind. But I'd say let's just wait till next season.
Fair enough. Fulham, looking at Fulham next, and looking at their last few games, I couldn't think of anything off the very top of my head. Maybe a few things, but has there been anything to you that's particularly stood out about Fulham in this past run of games that you lot can think of? Anyone?
I mean, I was thinking in general, Fulham. I mean, I feel like the biggest thing for me with any Marco Silva side has always been like it's just inconsistency. It can be chaotic and like and just a way that's bad. I feel like Fulham have been a bit more consistent, but I want to look at their record and make sure that's at least not too inaccurate.
I mean, even in the goals as well.
I think they have been more consistent just the last run of games. I mean, I think that they beat some like pretty good sides. They beat Newcastle 2-1, Forest 2-1. It's kind of weird because they're losing to like teams like Crystal Palace. It does show a little bit of consistency, but at least they're getting results against bigger teams. I mean, they beat a smaller team in Tottenham last weekend. But yeah, I think they've done pretty well.
They seem to be a pretty good giant killer this season, definitely. I'm kind of glad to see Marco Silva succeeding, but I also I feel like he needs to stay at Fulham. I don't want him to move abroad. There are some rumors that he might move, but I feel like let's just see where this project goes.
I heard he was on the shortlist of Tottenham shortlist as their next manager if Andrew goes.
Yeah, I hope not. I mean, we'll get to my club I think soon, so I'm gonna have to leave early. But yeah, we'll talk a little bit about that.
Ipswich. Looking at Ipswich, it's not looking great for Ipswich. I mean, to be fair, they haven't had the best runs, the best run of games. Yes, they even lost to Southampton at home. Do you think Kieran McKenna is going to get sacked before the end of the season, or do you think it's just one of those situations where because he had done so well in getting the back-to-back promotions to the Premier League, do you think that they'll still keep some faith in Kieran McKenna? And the fact that Ipswich are even still in a fight, like the other two, I think for me it's done, but Ipswich are not out of the question. So the fact that they're still even in the conversation of staying up is incredible to me. Hats off to them, but if they go down, do you think McKenna's time will be done?
I mean, you're right, Davis. They're the best of the relegated sides, which this season isn't saying much. But I definitely hope he does. Well. Yeah, I hope he does not go. He definitely should not get the sack, and if he does, it definitely says a lot about what football is at the moment. But what were you going to say, Joe?
Oh yeah, I was just going to say. I mean, I don't know how Ipswich run, but I agree with Andre. I think that regardless of whether or not they go down this season, I think he's done a very good job, and he's Ipswich have put up a good fight. I do think that all three promoted sides are going to go back down, but I think that I agree with Andre. I hope they keep him. I like the football that Ipswich play a lot.
No, definitely, and sadly, football, these days has become higher than next minute you're sacked sort of business, but at the end of the day, it's a results-based business. Regardless of the circumstances, I of course I wouldn't see it for the culture, of course not. But unfortunately, it's just the way football is. It's a business at the end of the day. If you don't get the results, unfortunately, your job's going to be on the line. Unfortunately, which one could easily say about Leicester. They have an astonishing stat. They have gone 7 straight games. Lost 7 straight games without scoring a single goal. And do you think this is a Ruud van Nistelrooy problem? Or do you think, when he joined or became the new manager of Leicester, or do you think this was something that, he was destined to fail when he took this job?
I mean, it was never going to be easy. For me, there's got to be some serious questions about Van Nistelrooy. I'm never really one to turn on a manager, but I think that there's just not really any there's nothing promising about the way they're playing at the moment, and I think that there's just he's not really had very much experience. He was an assistant at Man United in one of our worst periods. He comes into a Leicester job. He doesn't really.
That's your worst period, to be fair.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, and he comes into Leicester and they're playing like this. I mean, there's got to be questions. It's a Gary Neville situation. I think we're looking at. So I mean, I think he could be in serious trouble.
I wouldn't say it's as bad as that. because I mean, up until the recent turnaround for us, I mean, Amorim had the same record as Gary Neville had at Valencia. So I mean, by the numbers, yeah, one can look at it. But I mean, they were having the same problems with Steve Cooper as well when he was here. But I think maybe under Cooper, perhaps they were defensively a bit more solid. They were a bit more solid defensively. I don't think they were, conceding goals literally at will. Because they've been conceding goals left, right, and center. I mean, the fact how Rasmus Højlund found the goal or found the back of the net against Leicester, I think, says everything you need to know about this Leicester side. His first goal in 22 games, and Garnacho the same, his first goal in 23 games. So yeah, I think that kind of says everything you need to know about this Leicester side right now. Do you see Ruud? Like I said about McKenna, do you see him losing his job at the end of the season if they go down? What do you guys think?
I mean, I think he'll lose it before that.
Oh, you think before?
Yeah.
I mean, it's definitely not a bad shot. It's definitely not a bad shot. I wouldn't rule it out. I mean, the fact how 37-year-old Jamie Vardy is still, the main man up front, kind of just says everything you need to know as of right now. They have a few good players here and there, like Buonanotte. He's only on loan though. I think Mabedidi is okay. Of course they have Ndidi, they have Sumare, who are, I think Ndidi's Premier League level for sure. But apart from that, it's not a whole lot of players that you could say. James Justin has been around for gosh knows how long at this point. But apart from that, there's not a whole lot. And another team who, up until the past 2 weeks, everything was going good for them. Until the Champions League against Paris Saint-Germain and the Carabao Cup final, which big up to Newcastle every single time. Liverpool, yes, I think, it's fair to say the title race is over. Arsenal, I think, are, 15 points behind, or 12 points behind, since Liverpool didn't play this weekend. But, looking at these two games, I think it's fair that we ask some questions. Specifically, Mo Salah's been brilliant all season. I think he's the player of the season. He's running away with the golden boot. However, once again, when it comes to the big games, is it fair to say that, questions should be asked of him in particular?
I mean, yeah, I think he has a really poor record in big games. I think I saw the stats. It was like 11 games, 2 goals, 1 assist, both goals penalties.
And even performances as well.
Obviously, it's no easy feat scoring a penalty in a Champions League final, but I think that his performances in big games are what's kept him from a Ballon d'Or. I mean, you look at 2018. If he turns up in that final, I mean, I know he got injured by Ramos, but if he turns up in that final, then it's, he could have had a Ballon d'Or winning season. He had a fantastic year in the Premier League. I mean, he's putting up Messi numbers this year, but I think that the big games once again are going to stop him from getting the Ballon d'Or.
No, I think that's fair. And quickly to interrupt, Andre, I know you have to leave in just a moment, but we're just going to jump forward real quick to Tottenham. Similar to us, is Europa League, is it Europa and Prey?
Pretty much. I think I'd say probably minimum for Ange to keep his job is he's probably got to at least make the final, which I know winning mentality. Everyone's saying Tottenham have got to win the Europa League is what you hear in the fan base. Maybe I'm taking the L mentality by just saying he's just got to make the final. But realistically, for him to do that, I think with the season we've had is still a huge accomplishment and shows that the project has promise. Essentially, I think anything short of a Europa League final, I think he's probably getting the sack, knowing Levy. But
I mean, even
I think I wasn't.
Problems, they've improved, but performances still haven't really changed. So it's not.
Yeah, and I mean, for me, it's a moot point, and I think anybody who really thinks that way is just clearly probably not played much football, or at least not watched enough, because it's it takes time to get back to your best from an injury. So yeah, we've got these players who are available to play, but are they Premier League ready? Certainly Premier League winning ready. I mean, it's going to take time. So it's for me, I wasn't really concerned about this safety of Ange's position and just Tottenham in general when the players were still backing Ange, when the mentality was still there. But honestly, lately I'm seeing a team that does look pretty defeated. For me, if results are poor but the manager still has the players on board, there's something there. This minute I begin to see a manager start to lose the locker room, then that's when I'm going to get skeptical. Someone's got to go, whether it's personnel in the locker room or personnel in the managerial team. But yeah, I mean, to make this brief, and because I also kind of want to talk about Liverpool, I'd say the only bright spark has pretty much been Lucas Bergvall, and Vicario has been good too, but mainly Bergvall is really the only positive I can take.
Gray as well, even though he's been played at centre back. I know you hammered Bissouma and Bentancur a few weeks ago.
Right. I forgot about that.
And even Solanke coming back doesn't look the same. Matthias Till. Yeah, and Brennan Johnson. Yeah. I think back to when I don't know whether it was Madison or the Tottenham admin made that R9 graphic or Photoshop of a Brennan Johnson. Yeah. How dare you?
I honestly do still think there's an absolute player in Brennan. I think the criticism is people are used to touchline wingers, players who can get the ball at their feet, take on their player one-on-one, and that's how we judge a winger. Brennan Johnson is not that kind of player, and it doesn't mean he's not good.
There's more than one.
He's for me, he kind of has what I value more in an attacker, which is like really like incredible positional awareness. I think pretty much off ball, I think he's almost always in a dangerous position, in the position to get a goal and assist, and it's like that's also valuable to a team. Yes, I think we probably do need a touchline winger, and pretty much every team does, but to judge Brendan on that is unfair. And again, people who do that just elbow it's just not. They don't know. They don't know.
You make a great point. And before we go back to Liverpool, this is why in particular with wingers, I don't judge them all the same, because they're different kind of wingers. Because you have wingers of the current era as of now, and you have wingers of prior eras. Like the man in my graphic here, who wingers back in the day, they play on their natural sides. They could play on both sides, but usually they play on on their natural side. Instead of cutting in, they'd be crossing the ball in. They'd be putting balls into the box for the strikers, for the other attackers. And now we've seen more of the cut inside kind of wingers. We've seen the touchline wingers like the Gareth Bales, which are more of a Tottenham reference there. But I mean, as long as they're, I guess you could say they're effective in attack. I mean, of course we're going to rate some wingers more than others, but but that's a great point that you meant there, that you said there. But what did you want to say about Liverpool before you head out?
I'd probably say honestly, Liverpool. My grandpa's a Liverpool fan, so I watch a lot of Liverpool games. I think I've probably watched about the same between Liverpool and Tottenham in recent memory. But I just wanted to say, in terms of this Arnie Slot season, which has been really fascinating to me, just from the limited signings they had maybe initial one. Just Keza, which again was an interesting signing. We didn't really know what would happen with that. Good player, injury problems is like a mystery.
A bit surprised how he hasn't played more.
Yeah, I mean he's beginning to get more minutes here and there, but it's again another one's like it's almost like it felt like a luxury signing because we didn't really know what he was going to bring. But anyway, it's been fascinating because they had the immediate success. They were still are the best team in the country currently on form. And then in a week, we saw them go out of 2 competitions. When I was backing them to possibly win the treble. I thought it was possible for them.
Liverpool fans at the beginning of every year.
Yeah.
Liverpool are always on for the quadruple, and they never seem to make it to some reason. I don't know why.
Every season, man.
No, I just say I feel like really an area that's gone wrong is, and I think for the better, is we've kind of seen it in this time of the season when it really was grind time, where the players who you could rely on were gonna show up. Some did and some didn't. And I think Darwin Núñez seems to be one who maybe it seems like you can't rely on him. He's not going to be good for the future. And to have Darwin and Jota and seem like those two aren't good enough to be relied upon in striker for this business end of the season, it's just, I think it's kind of let them down. So I'm hoping, I think for the Arne Slot project to work, it's just, that's the area. Like, if they can get a quality striker in, seems like there are a couple other ones I can't really think of right now, but I'd just say it's kind of sad to see. I think Darwin's time, to me, may be looking over, at least to be relied upon as the main number 9.
And
But,
a few summers ago, we almost spent,
yeah.
a good 80+ million on that player. But then again, we spent on Anthony instead. But then again, what do they say? I forgot the saying. But, you can look back on it and say, yeah, would have been better to spend this money on XYZ. But yeah, both signings have been dreadful, to be fair. And spending that amount of money on that player, yeah. Even in the slot, looking at the Arne Slot style of play, I mean, and I've said this, I don't think we've seen Arne Slot's style of play, really. I think he's taken a group of players, and I think he's done very well in the sense that, rather than what Amorim has done, and this isn't criticism to Ruben Amorim necessarily, but instead of directly changing everything that's going on, ripping it all up and doing something completely different and brand new, he's taken the players that he's got, and he's more or less, yes, we're going to play a little bit more controlled. We're not going to play, as chaotic, all this rock and roll. We're going to be a bit more controlled, a bit more methodical. We're going to possess the ball a little bit more. Be a little bit more, I guess you could say, cultured in the way that we play. I guess you could see it. And we've seen some differences, not a whole lot, but we've seen some. Some more notable than others, but, we still see a lot of transition football, as we've seen a lot of these goals from Liverpool being scored. So a lot of transition football. So, but I mean, as much credit as he should get Arne Slot, questions should be asked of him as well when he falters. I mean, even in that Carabao Cup final, I don't know if any of you watched it. How, and he said they do zonal marking. Everyone knows the deficiencies of zonal marking. How do you have Alexis McAllister and a matchup against Dan Burn off a set piece? That was just astounding to me. Konate in the past few weeks has not looked great. Is it, because he's played every single game? Arne Slot doesn't really rotate all that much. Could that be an issue? Maybe. Possibly. Even just when looking at little things like that, even when you see that Núñez doesn't work every single time when you bring him off the bench, and you have Chiesa there, but you refuse to use Chiesa to try something different, even little things like that. Joe, if you were just looking at both sides of it, do you think it would be fair or justified to question the manager, to ask questions in particular cases like that?
Arne Slot?
Yeah. For as much good as he's done.
I think Arne Slot's done a really good job this season. I think
yes.
I think he's just been a little let down in big games. I mean, like you said, players like Darwin Núñez. Like, I mean, I don't know about any of you guys if you were watching that game, but like, did anyone expect Darwin Núñez to score that penalty? No. I would have been more surprised if he had made it than if he had missed it. So it's like you can't rely on players like that, and Arne Slot has to because he doesn't have any other options. So, I mean, Chiesa maybe will come to form now after scoring that goal in the final, but we'll see. I mean, I think Arne Slot's done a great job. I don't think anything he's done this season is questionable at all, to be honest.
No, that is fair. And just in the few little moments, I think you can ask questions. Obviously, not asking big questions, but in the areas I think where he's gone wrong, it's of course very, very few, very, very, very few. But I think in the games where maybe he did make some mistakes, which is perfectly fine. Your first season in the Premier League, you're just still going to be learning, and especially taking over for a manager who's only beloved by the entire, apart from the Evertonians, the entire city of Liverpool, is, the play style, that's been ingrained in these players for the last 9 years, for the last 9 seasons. So, of course, it's always going to be difficult, but I think in some instances where you see something isn't working, clearly something isn't working, and you have another option there, but you're refusing to try it, it's kind of like, what do you have to lose? But next, Man City. Haven't had the easiest run of games. Of course, one of their 2 wins did come against Tottenham. And did come against Newcastle as well, which I was a bit surprised, to be fair. Seriously, I don't know if you're here or whatnot, but is Europa League football a real possibility for Man City? Do you think that will happen?
Yeah. I mean, okay, sorry, yeah, my computer died, by the way, so I'm on my phone now. I don't know. It is a possibility, but I just don't see Man City. I don't see them not finishing top 4. Top 5 is what? 5th is now Champions League, right? So
I think so.
I mean, like looking at their like schedule, it's really not that like they play like Southampton, Wolves, Everton, Palace.
Well, those are upcoming games.
Like, yeah, those are their upcoming games. Like, and I know they play Man U, and I know they play like Fulham once, but like it's honestly they have an easy schedule. I feel like they should be fine.
No, that's very fair. I mean, no game's an easy one in the Premier League. Of course, some games will be easier than others. And I think the form, I think this season is the most interesting season for me in a long while, because we've seen the teams that, we'd expect to do well, or really well, have failed. Some have failed miserably, and then teams that we'd expect to be mid-table bottom at bend towards the top. So it's been kind of an interesting season when you look at it from that point of view. But I think their defensive woes and inconsistencies is just going to be something that continues to bite them every single time. Players like Bernardo Silva. I mean, I've never seen I won't say I never have, but I've not seen a fall off in a player like that in a long time. And I think for me, I'll ask you the question: do you think Pep's style of play or Pep's football is a detriment to football right now? When we look at the upcoming managers, the way that teams play now, the fact how the attacking players that we know have quality but need the freedom just to go and play their football, aren't given the freedom to go and just play the way that they want to play, to express themselves. What do you guys think?
I mean, definitely when you see just videos from I don't know, just for me, when I think it was retro. I mean, it's just I love seeing just the retro Premier League, just early 2000s ball. It was just so good, and just you watch some of if you watch 10 minutes of a match, it's just so end to end. It's so exciting. So I think when I watch stuff like that, I will think that. Ultimately, though, I think the game is going to evolve tactically always. So Pep, I mean, you got to give him credit for changing the league in the way he has done. Mm-hmm. I still think this style is gonna phase out eventually. So, in terms of entertainment and maybe what we value, maybe it has been a detriment. But ultimately, I have the confidence that the pendulum's gonna swing and football is gonna even out, and we're gonna have. Let's just hopefully Dyche gets a good job and fucking kicks Pep out. I don't know.
Wait, Andre, I have a question for you.
Yeah.
What style of play are you going to employ in your managerial?
Yeah, I was about to say, big up Andre. He got the manager's job
yes.
for a local football team.
Yeah.
A Bondwick ball is going to be cooking. I've seen in the career mode, Bondwick FC. He's going to cook with that same formation. What is it, that 4-1-2-1-2 formation? I swear. No,
I do.
Here we go. He's given. Bondway has the new manager's job.
Yeah.
Hopefully
I'm coaching a local private school. Their middle school team. Should be fun. Definitely love the 4-4-2 diamond. Think definitely that's going to be played with coming from the fullbacks. You know what it is. High lines, who we are, mate? Maybe, I don't know. No, it should be. Thank you for announcing that, Dave. And Joe, thank you for asking. But it's exciting. So hopefully you guys will.
Big up, Andre. And I don't think that's a perfect way to send you up. I know you have to go, but
gonna go play footy now actually. But yeah, all right. See you guys.
And the segment into next, actually, no. Before we segment, I think there's a few players that we need to talk about. Firstly, Phil Foden. Everyone has the Foden and Saka debate. I don't, Sirius, I could probably guess where Sirius stands on that subject. But Joe, where do you stand on it?
I mean,
Especially when you look at Foden now.
if you asked me last season, I mean, I have to say Foden because Foden was so incredible last season. But
Oh,
I mean,
100%.
Saka's just been so consistent now for so long that I think that my answer now and for a long time is gonna have to just be Saka because, I mean, if Foden is gonna be this Rashford type of player who goes on fantastic runs of form and looks like the best player in the world when he's on form, but then drops off for entire seasons. I mean, he just can't be taken seriously like players like Saka can because Saka's just so consistently good. So I think I have to say Saka nowadays for sure.
I think that's a very good way to look at it. I mean, for me, I kind of break it down into two categories. For me, I look at just footballing technical ability and you look at who's actually going to turn up. And for me, when you look at just pure footballing ability, it's not even a conversation. Phil Foden is clear, is light years ahead of Bukayo Saka. However, when it comes to actually turning up when it matters, when it actually comes to consistently contributing to your side, the magnitude or importance that you have to his side. It's Bukayo Saka every single day of the week, and you can't question it. I mean, he's turned up for England, much more than Foden has, you'd have to say. Especially the Euros is one of the most damning indictments for me. I said in the summer, Bukayo Saka is one of the three players who could walk away from that tournament. For us that you could say whose stocks actually were raised. Him, Goihi, and Kobe,
And Bellingham.
and yeah, I'm not too sure about Jude from the Euros, man. But
No, he was Mr. Clutch. He was the one. He's the reason you're in you
the
went to the
one goal,
final.
literally the one goal. And this is what annoys me about modern day football. He could stink out the place for 90 minutes. He could score some mad goal.
And without him, you wouldn't be in the finals. So.
And then some mad goal. Then the narrative goes from what's happened to Jude Bellingham to this is what he does, give him the Ballon d'Or. It's just, but I mean, look, I definitely feel like from Tuchel will probably get the best out of him. I think playing him in that number 10 role was probably one of the worst things that you could do because Jude's just not a number 10 naturally. He's naturally a box to box.
That's a horrible take.
What did he play at Dortmund? What did he originally play at Birmingham City?
He plays for Madrid as a 10, and he's fantastic.
Carlo played him in that role because he saw that he had no striker. And this is why I rate Carlo Ancelotti so highly, because he saw the players that he had. And like he does at every single club, he takes the players that he's got and he finds a system and a formation and utilizes all this player's strengths in whatever system or formation that he wants to play with. He played Jude Bellingham in that Kako role behind, like he did with that Milan team when he had Shevchenko and Crespo up front and Kako behind. But just give him the freedom to just do whatever, make great runs into the box.
Correct.
And that's what he did. Gave Bellingham the freedom to more or less kind of roam around as like the false nine and all of that. So he had the freedom to just make runs into the box, score goals, but that's not really his natural position. What we're seeing now is...
Yeah, but he was incredible at that position.
No, not to say that he wasn't incredible at it, but, I don't think he's an out-and-out number 10. Because when I think out-and-out number 10s, I think of your creators. I think of, think of the Neymars. I think of the Kevin De Bruyne's. I think of the Eze's. Of course, they're all different sort of number 10s. I think of the Grealishes. Of course, they're all different number 10s in the styles that they play. But what all four of them have in common is that they're all creators by nature. Of course, some of them don't have the freedom to actually express themselves, which makes them look worse than they actually are. Like Jack Grealish, for example. But I wouldn't say Bellingham is as the most creative, has all the creative genes in the way that he plays. I wouldn't say so. That he's a super creative player. I'd say arguably you could probably say that Arda Güler would be better for that role. Not that he's a better player than Bellingham. That's not what I'm saying. But for the player, for the attributes that the player has got is what I'm saying. But just an opinion. And another player that that for me that I don't have personal agendas against any player, but the amount of hype that I see with Jeremy Doku just in particular, people are saying, oh, he dribbled past Trent like 8 times. We've seen, he did it the last season. We've seen players cook Trent for fun. He made Dalot look like the Portuguese Cafu, for example, and he's been one of our worst players this season. So all of the Doku hype and Doku's better than Grealish, I'm not having it. Doku at the end of the day, yeah. I can't describe in words,
I mean, I don't know. Both of them are so dead to me. Both of them just do the same thing every time. You got Grealish, who just checks back onto his right foot and
Grealish
passes
at a
back
different
every
couple
single
shot.
time. You've got, maybe if he plays a 10 and he has more creative freedom, then maybe Grealish would be better, yeah. But at Man City, he plays on that left side. He checks back onto his right foot and he passes it back every time. Doku cuts inside to the byline every time and tries to put a pass in, and maybe 1 or 2 times it works. But both players are really wasted in that Pep system for me.
Shifting to Manchester United, it had looked fairly hopeless for us until
the return of Højlund.
So do not be shameless. I'm not having the shamelessness with Højlund, man. But one thing that you must do, you must give Joshua Zirkzee, you must give Jay-Z his props.
Who?
Joshua Zirkzee.
All I know is that Højlund is back. And
you are so shameless.
He's looking like the next Van Nistelrooy. I don't know who those 2 players are you have behind you. I haven't seen the one on the right for a few months. I don't know where he's been, but it's Højlund is back. Bruno is cooking. Dayvai's in the mud, and Man United are going to win the league.
I think Dayvai might be in the mud.
I think that Dayvai's in the mud for sure.
Well, I'd like to be in Dayvai, so.
Something was telling me when I was when the start of that match, when the start of the last match happened, and something was just telling me that Højlund was going to score, and I knew the moment Højlund scored that goal, I was going to see the most shameless Joe of all time, the most shameless Joe of all time. But in all seriousness, no, the mental fortitude that this player has had to endure since first arriving, in all seriousness, you have to give the player massive shots the way he's turned it around. Especially, watching, a lot of the recent games. I'm seeing.
Wait, I'm sorry. Are you talking about Højlund or Zirkzee right now?
Zirkzee.
Okay, yeah.
In all seriousness, you have to give the player props for.
Yeah, I totally can. I actually think Zirkzee's been fantastic recently. He's been looking really good. I really like the way he's been playing recently.
For me, Zirkzee reminds me a lot of Tony. Not Ivan Tony, Tony Martial, and just the way that he can link play. For me,
no, there's no one like Martial.
Aesthetically, he's just a player that will just get me off my seat, and we lack players that can actually do that at the end of the day. That actually enjoy watching play for us. When I actually watch them, I'm like, wow, okay. Ahmad's one of them. Maybe Kobe on his day. But apart from that, we don't really have anyone else. But, and I said about Zirkzee, give him a fair run of games. Give him a run of 6 or 7 games straight in the Premier League, and then we can judge. And he's been given those run of games, and it's been a lot more good than bad. Even in the games where he hasn't scored goals, he's contributed in ways. The Ahmad injury till the end of the season, and especially losing after Tottenham, I really feared for the worst. But since then, apparently Ahmad's scheduled to come back, I think, next month, sometime in April, was something that I heard, allegedly. But even with, and I'll say this with Bruno, he's turned up, to be fair to him. Yes, and I have a lot of criticism of Bruno, for those who know me. I'm a big critique of his, but no one can say that he hasn't turned up in these last few games, because he has. And he's been performing very, very well in a lot of these games. But I think even though Højlund has scored 1 goal in 23, Garnacho 1 goal in 22, I think these are players that realistically, when you look at them, I don't know, whether it's, Wilcox and the recruitment team, whether it's Amorim. I'm not sure how long these players are going to last. I don't think he really rates many of our players, to be honest with you. I don't think anyone in general really does. But I mean, the 2 January signings I think have been, breath of fresh air. Firstly, let's talk about Patrick Dorgu. I mean, how impressed have you been personally with this player?
Yeah, I like him. He's been quite good. Very consistent. Did get that one red card, I think, recently. But otherwise, very consistent. I like him a lot.
I like to see, or like seeing what he can offer, especially going forward. Very, very good going forward. And for me, this is, not only does it symbolize that kind of player that I want to see us, signing in regards to just, ability and whether they fit the way we want to play, but also you look at the finances and the scouting involved. This screams Christopher Vivell with this kind of signing. I think Lecce said like 40 million euros, and we only played like 20 million or something. Which is a steal for a player when you look at that.
Can we talk about the fact that we're gonna have to pay 90 million pounds this summer, regardless of whether or not we sign any players, and how ridiculous that is? Like how
No, definitely, and that's a sign of the
how shit are we managed for that to happen?
And again, these are all things that were of the older regime. This is not something that Ineos have. All of Ineos's recruitment, and yes, we can all have criticism of Ineos, rightfully so. But I think the one thing that no one can question is the recruitment. Apart from maybe the Ugarte signing, which has been a bit like he's, he has his uses, but for 60 mil, I think we got our pants pulled down because you look at that PSG midfield now. So I say, bar that, I think every signing that we've made this summer, when you look at the player profile, when you look at the price, it's been very good. I'll use the Branthwaite versus the package of De Ligt and Mazraoui. De Ligt and Mazraoui, especially De Ligt, who's had a lot of criticism, saying that he's injury prone. He's not, he's only been injured, only missed I think maybe 1 or 2 games. He's been rarely ever injured, and he's been one of the few players which for me have been decent this season. Of course, the standard's quite low right now, but he's one of the few bright sparks. Same with Mazraoui for me. For 12 million, I'll still stand by it now. For me, it's still one of arguably the best signing of the season. For 12 million, when you look at Mazraoui, what he can offer, especially in that right center back role, he looks very, very, very good as well. But you make a very good point with the debt that we have to pay. And again, these are all things going back to not having footballing people in charge. Going back to the, we're gonna have to pay money for Lissandro, who costs 50, for Onana, for Sancho, for Anthony, for Mount, for Lissandro, for Højlund as well, for players of the past that we paid stupid fees for, and either we paid stupid fees for them, or we're signing players who just, again, don't really have anything to excite you with. So you make a great point with the debt and all that. The new stadium as well. Just to quickly ask about the new stadium before I get into the last point about Man United. What are your thoughts on it?
Yeah, I mean, I made my opinion pretty clear in the group chat, but I've never been in favor of getting rid of Old Trafford. The new stadium definitely looks really cool, and I think it'll be certainly super fun to go to a stadium that has 100,000 seats and looks like that. I think it looks really cool. But I really think that it's just like the last thing that we have that connects us to our fantastic history is our stadium and all the memories that we've made there. And I really am just not in favor of moving from there. And it will just be really it'll be really telling of the place that football is in now and how commercialized it's become. That we just decided to just throw that stadium out. And I mean, maybe it'll remain a monument for a few years and then they'll knock it down. But I don't know. It'll be very depressing for me. I won't really have any I'm happy to go to Old Trafford. I've been to Old Trafford a lot, and it's always a magical place. I've never lost when I've been there. I have a very special connection with it, I think. But I definitely won't have very much interest in going to the new stadium, I don't think.
No, I think that's a very fair thing to say. And you make a great point. I mean, Old Trafford is is where all of our histories come from. It's one of the last things that we have that connects us to, what we once were. But Sir Alex Ferguson, I think came out with a quote the other day. I forgot the exact wording of it, but he said something along the lines of that Old Trafford's been a great place. We have wonderful history there, and now let's go to the new stadium and make a new history there. Something along those lines, which that's something I fully back and I get behind.
Yeah, I do too.
But when you look at it from the other side of things, unfortunately, as football isn't how it used to be. Unfortunately, it's more modernized. It's more commercialized. It's a lot more money and finances and politics involved, which is something I don't really like getting into. And unfortunately, you also look at the state of Old Trafford as well, and Carrington, how it's used to be the best in class in every single way, shape, and form. On the pitch, off the pitch, our facilities, our stadium, but we have fallen so far from grace.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if you've sat in the Stretford End, David, but there's a reason that they stand the whole game, and it's not just that they're so passionate, but it's that if you sit
I was
down,
in the Stretford End.
yeah, but it's if you sit down in the Stretford End, you'll feel very uncomfortable because there's not nearly enough room for your knees.
I was there. It's
and
a magical place
extraordinarily
to be.
painful.
No, I feel that, and I mean, only those who've been to Old Trafford will know about physically being in the Stretford End. It's definitely a place to be, and that connection won't be the same, as it has been for so long. But at the end of the day, I mean, the rat infestation problems, the lighting problems, the roofs falling apart, the ceiling's literally falling apart, and to a certain degree, I can understand, needing a change of some kind, and apparently. Like the cost to actually fix and renovate Old Trafford, it would cost so much, it wouldn't be, too far off of just building a new stadium at that point. So I guess that's why they went for a new stadium. I'm not saying I agree with it or not, but that was just a way of thinking. And kind of like going back to our season, I mean, for us, it's Europa and pray, more or less. I mean, this is literally all we have.
It's not going to happen. Like we're going to finish mid-table or lower. It's not. It's never going to happen for us.
We literally have this competition. This is our only hope to salvage the season. Like the FA Cup, Man United Cup competitions. We know what we can do. I mean, we scam trophies. Under the prior manager. So we've seen it before. We can do it. I think we're capable of doing it. And the last thing that I do want to talk about before moving into the Newcastle, and this one is a big thank you to Sirius. £1 million for Aiden Heaven. Thank you very much. I mean, how impressive has this kid been since he's been given a chance in the first team?
Yeah, he's been great. Been fantastic. Super pleased with him. If there's one thing we can rely on, it's our eye for young talent. That's for sure.
And this is this was I think it was this for me screams Jason Wilcox, because he knows the ground root system here in the UK, so we'll know the best of the young talent going around, building up a youth network. That's his thing. That's what he did at Man City all those years ago. And with recruitment, I completely trust Ineos for what I've seen so far. But hopefully we can see results pick up. I know our upcoming games are not going to be nice. You have Forest, Man City coming up as well. I think we have Bournemouth, Brentford coming up. Not easy games. But moving into Newcastle, and firstly, the first trophy, they've won a trophy the first time in 70 years, and they still won a trophy before Tottenham, which is amazing. So would you lot say, seriously, I'm going to throw this question to you, is Alexander Isak the best striker on the planet right now?
That's a difficult one. I'd say Mbappe is the best striker.
That's ball knowledge right there. Dave in the mud again, to be honest. I knew he wouldn't agree with that.
He threw out a question. I'm supposed to be the non the host
Dave,
of the show. I'm supposed to just play devil's advocate.
Dave, I think you might be stuck in the mud.
I mean, look, fair enough. I mean, my footballing opinions always are always the most trendy. So,
Devi.
yes.
All right, keep going.
Okay. But I mean, it's unquestionable that he's definitely up there. For me, he's maybe not. You could say Mbappe and all that, but for me, he's the most. When you look at strikers around the planet, for me, he's the most complete in the world. He's the most complete forward. When you look at his hold-up play, his ability to run the channels, to hold up the ball, to link other players into the attack. I don't see Mbappe linking other players into the attack. And this is not me saying that he's better than Mbappe. Absolutely not. But as a natural number 9, because that's not what Mbappe is at the end of the day, he's done very well there. He's done very well to bounce back from his early struggles that he had at the beginning of the season and all that. But for me, Alexander Isak is, for me, the complete number 9. Of course you have the Harry Kanes and Lewandowskis and all that, but they're either in their late 20s or on the other side of the 30s. So for me, he's I think every single club, if they could have one dream transfer, it's this player. But of course, unless you're paying 150 million, he's not for sale. So, I mean, he's been absolutely phenomenal this season. Even though Gordon didn't play in the cup final, still been very good as well. Another question to throw at you, though. When looking at the Premier League's midfields, would you say that Newcastle is not just the player personnel, but when you look at the balance in their midfield, would you say that their midfield, when everyone's fully fit and healthy, is the best in the league right now? When you look at Joelinton, Bruno G, and Tonali, because the athleticism is terrific and the technical ability is very, very high as well.
In the Premier League?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm just trying to think of I mean, you do have. There's Rice, Odegaard, and Partey, but I'd give it to Newcastle, honestly. I mean, I don't know who else. Back in the day when Rodri was still playing with, KDB, that lineup, I'd give it to them. But yeah, I guess I would. They've been great. They dominated our midfield, honestly, when we played them twice. So yeah, I would give it to them.
And I mean, it's definitely, huge testament to Eddie Howe as well. Again, I know we talk about Eddie Howe a good amount, but I mean, he's gotten this team he's kept them up from relegation just a few seasons ago, bringing them to Champions League football. And now they're definitely right in the mix for top 4, top 5. They 100% are. And again, they won the Carabao Cup. And, I look at the Newcastle team that we beat in the Carabao Cup 2 years ago. This team is not only a lot better and a lot more experienced, but for me, this team is a lot more ruthless in front of goal when looking at the two sides. And for me, I think any team that's to play this Newcastle side, whether it's whether it's away or especially at St. James's Park, because it's a very difficult place to go to. It's not going to be easy. So, huge testament to Newcastle as well. And Dan Burn, also in the headlines for several England club. So big shouts to him as well. Newcastle fan growing up. And just another one that's gone under the radar. How impressive you lot, Ben, with just Dan Burn's longevity? I mean, you have to say it's quite impressive.
Yeah, it is quite impressive. I mean, a lot of people kind of took the piss out of him for a while, but he's really established himself in the Newcastle side. And I have definitely been impressed with that.
Definitely. Moving into Nottingham Forest, another team. They're still flying this season under Nuno. And for me, when I look at the side, I look at them similarly like I look at the Bournemouths. They do well against the more difficult opposition, but against the mid-table, bottom-table sides, like us and Tottenham, they tend to struggle. I mean, they did actually beat us at Old Trafford, but then again, everyone does. But players who weren't necessarily performing, around a month ago, you could say, are performing now. Gibbs White's looking back to his best again. Another England call up for him, well deserved for me. In this sort of run you could say, who's been just the most impressive or biggest standout in this Forest side? What do you guys think?
Mm. I mean, Elanga's a shout.
Yeah, he's been great. I mean,
100%.
yeah, I don't know why you guys really got rid of him.
I'll still stand by it. I don't think he was good enough for us regardless. But then again, we know how, I mean, the quality of our attack is so dead right now. I mean, if Garnacho's starting for us, Elanga could easily start for us.
I think Murillo has also been great this season.
He's been phenomenal. He's been
And Hudson-Odoi as well has been quite good.
Yeah, and a player that looks rejuvenated, especially under Nuno as well. Ola Aina is, I said it last episode and I'll say it again, he's just another player, or one of them, who just goes under the radar to someone who just, again, doesn't do anything amazing, doesn't do anything fancy, but his reliability for me is just makes him such a big standout as well. And Sells in goal too, from Strasbourg, which is what is where like all the Chelsea loan army goes or gets sent to, or is the other I think they're the other football club that they're owned. Chelsea's owners own them as well, I think, to the best of my knowledge. But no. Question before we move on to the next side. Will Nottingham Forest get Champions League football this year? Do you think they will be able to seal it?
Yeah, absolutely. No question about it for me, to be honest.
Yeah,
I think the question is between Chelsea and City.
And if they seal it,
and maybe Newcastle at the other spot.
If they seal Champions League football, we saw what happened to Newcastle last season, where they got Champions League football, and then the realization hit that they weren't really able to handle European football and domestic football and playing in so many competitions, and they went out. Of course, being, not also, let's also not take away that, they were potentially robbed of being, at least still in the Europa League or in European football as a whole, and were also literally given the most difficult group to compete in of last year's Champions League. But do you think Forest will have a similar fate to that if they get into the Champions League?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think this Forest side is as good as that Newcastle side. So I think that they're gonna have more troubles next season for sure. I think they could go back down to mid-table. I mean, maybe I'm really wrong, but I just don't. I think that they're having a great year, but I think that they're gonna go back to more expected standards next season, regardless of whether or not they finish in the Champions League spot, which I think they will.
Fair enough. Next, moving into Southampton. Something funny that I saw the other day. Ivan Juric was asked in a press conference, or whether he was asked about it, but I saw him say in a press conference, he came out and said that Southampton have no chance of staying up. I mean, some could say, you can't be saying that. I mean, to be brutally honest, I mean, they literally have no chance of staying up. It's not being biased. You also look at
excuse me. Sorry, excuse me. Dave, I talk about Messi for a second. I think Messi can tease her McWeezer and put the fries in the bag.
Brilliant. Absolutely phenomenal.
Sorry, my phone was taken.
Of course, Tyler Dibling will be on his way out. I don't think that's a question. However, looking around at the rest of the squad, do you think that there are other players that Premier League teams could pick off from the Southampton side? Or is it really just Tyler Dibling and that's about it?
I don't know. I can't say anyone else has stood out to me that much from that team.
Fair enough. I mean, Kyle Walker-Peters has been there forever. I think he could probably get into another Premier League side. Aaron Ramsdale, how many clubs are interested in? He went to Southampton. I mean, it'll be his third relegation in his career, which, I mean, it's unfortunate, but I mean, could have gone to a host of Premier League sides, but he chose Southampton. I mean, you kind of know what you're getting yourself into. Apart from that, maybe Hardwood Bellis, but that's about it. Looking at West Ham, Graham Potter, I'm going to ask you a series of questions. For what you lot have seen or heard, who do you lot think has looked different, has changed, looks improved, rejuvenated? What noticeable changes have you seen? Just in comparison from Lopetegui and Potter's West Ham sides, what do you guys think?
I don't know. I can't say I've noticed that many changes yet. I mean, the Arsenal win was certainly impressive, and it was not something I would have expected under Lopetegui. But I think that I don't know. I think he's still changing things, and I don't think that I've really seen much differences yet.
No, that's fair enough. I mean, if there's one player that's really improved, I mean, I've actually seen Wan-Bissaka actually attack and put a cross into the box, which is putting crosses into the box for Wan-Bissaka, something that you and I basically almost never saw.
Yeah, I have seen some great clips of Wan-Bissaka this season taking on players and going on really good runs. I will say that.
Cooked Calafiori for that goal that Bowen scored. I think for me, Jared Bowen as well. I mean, this player in particular. I mean, I gave him a lot of praise last season as well. Even being out the side for as long as he was, and the goal scoring problems that they had, yes, he's had awful games, but for me, he's never one to really shy away. Even if he's not scoring goals, even when he's playing as a false nine, he'll still try and link play, even though he's not a striker at all. For me, his importance to this West Ham side is just, it's beyond words. And even just looking at, his movement on the pitch as well, looks more diversified as well. He's doing better in dropping into the gaps as well. Different times where I've seen him play more as the actual nine or false nine than when they've had players like Evan Ferguson on the bench, the likes of Fulkrug. When he's been fit and available, yeah, he's been kind of a bust anyways for 30-something mil. But, I mean, massive props to Jared Bowen, man. Honestly, have to give credit where it's due. And lastly, Wolves. Not a whole lot, but, Strand Larson seems to be back amongst the goals. You could say. The one question I will ask before we move on to the very brief UEFA segment, is it Cunha and Prey for Wolves from now till the end of the season?
I mean, I think it's been Cunha and Prey all season, but I think that there are players that are turning up now. I think Bellegarde has been good. I think they have other players that they can expect a little bit from, but I think it's been Cunha and Prey the entire season, to be honest. And I would be surprised if he doesn't move this summer.
I think he signed a new deal, but has a release clause in place.
That could just be
he's a release clause in place.
It could just be to drive his price up, to be honest.
No, yeah. I saw that he has like a release clause of I think 50, 60 million in place. I think he'll probably be on the move in the summer, but who knows? Who knows? It might be an Eze situation where, we thought that Eze and Elise were going to leave. They were both going to leave, but ended up that Eze was staying. I mean, also, when you think about it, there's no way Palace were going to lose both of them in one summer. But when you look at it, it's definitely highly probable that he'll be on his way out the door. And I don't question they have other good players as well. Joao Gomez is a very good footballer as well. I rate him very highly. For me, he was either him or I wanted him or Sander Berg from who was at Sheffield United at the time to be the midfield signing instead of Ugarte, because I think they would have been the first phase player that we actually needed, because Ugarte is not a first phase player, unfortunately. But moving into a quick just European football segment, when looking at the knockout competitions, looking at the Champions League, who do you guys think are going to go through on all sides?
I think Madrid will go through against Arsenal. I think PSG will go through against Villa. I think that Bayern no, I think Inter will go through against Bayern. And I think that what's the last tie that I'm missing? Barcelona. I think that Barcelona will beat Dortmund.
Sirius, what about you? What do you think?
I think that Inter will go through. Actually, I'm gonna go Bayern. I think Bayern will go through. I think that Barca will go through. I think that PSG will go through. I think. I'm gonna go with my Gunners.
Fair enough. Fair enough to say positive, man.
But maybe not. I don't know.
And who do you think is going to get farther in Europa League? Spurs or Manchester United?
Probably Man U, because Spurs are just classic bottle jobs.
I mean, yeah, I think if we go out before Tottenham, we're really like we're almost as in the mud as Deva is. If we go out before Tottenham.
I mean, we haven't beaten Tottenham since October the 20th.
Well, yeah, but like
October 2022.
like Barcelona beat Real Madrid, but they're still shit. So it's like.
I mean, Barca's football this season has been absolutely incredible. I mean, for the detriment to my mental health of watching Man United this season. I mean, watching Barca, just the way they play football for me is just, at least gives me a little bit of enjoyment in watching them. And lastly, just for quick international football. I know no one cares about the international football, but I think some things are fairly interesting. I mean, Spain play Germany in Nations League. I could be wrong, but do you think that will be an interesting match to see?
I mean, maybe. I mean, I probably won't be watching to be honest, but
fair enough.
I think I'm probably gonna take a break from football during the international break, but if that is happening, then I will definitely check the score and see who played well.
I mean, there are some good matches. To be fair, I know Germany, Italy, and Spain. They have Nations League again. Not really many of us care about the Nations League, but just something I just found particularly interesting. I know there's CONCACAF Nations League. Yes, I know it's a thing.
It's Spain play the Netherlands. It looks like.
Okay. My apologies. But I think it will still be high quality match to watch, especially just the technical level of both sides.
Yeah, and it's Italy, Germany.
Also, yeah, those will probably be the two games I'll take notice for. I mean, as for me, I'll probably, definitely will want to see Tuchel's first game in charge, but then after that, after being reassured the things that I'm already kind of predicting about the football will play, then I'm not really going to care about it. So I think that will be kind of exciting to see. And then, apart from that, anything else? Brilliant.
I'm all good.
And with that,
I mean, Dave, all I can say is thank you for your time. Stop. Yeah, that's really about it. Yeah.
fair enough. We hope you enjoyed the show. We'll see